It's the Redirect Podcast. Search industry research, discussion, and analysis from the Black Truck Media and Marketing Headquarters. And now, redirecting you to the Black Truck team.
Welcome to episode 57 of the Redirect Podcast. It is Friday, September 21st, 2018. I'm Jason Dodge, founder of Black Truck Media and Marketing. I'm joined this week by Patrick and Ashley from the Black Truck team. Hey, gang.
Hello.
Hey, happy Friday.
Yes.
Friday. It is very windy outside here in West Michigan while we're recording, so if you hear anything, that's why.
Like the creaking outside our window.
We also have Art Prize going on. That's kicked off just 2 days ago?
Yep,
Day
Wednesday.
3
2
into
days
this.
ago.
So that means our city gets turned upside down, and we get an influx of what they'll figure 500,000 people will probably
Yeah,
stream
between
through.
400 and 500.
So we'll double this community size by the time we're done. So I would say not a ton moving and shaking this week in terms of industry news. The biggest thing that I think this will probably roll right into what Pat is talking about is like everybody has gotten this major influx of, hey, your site is now in the mobile first index within Search Console. I know I have seen at least 6 to 10 notifications on that coming through of various clients, various sites, things like that. So I'm kind of looking at Pat because I know where he's going to go.
Yeah, I first became aware of it on my own personal websites that I have outside of work stuff, and I got the notification that one of my sites was switched over to mobile first indexing. Like, I thought we already did this.
Right.
You know, we've been talking about it for over a year now that this is going to happen, and I guess everything has always been that it's coming. Well, it officially is here.
It's been here for a while.
Yeah, it's been here for a while. So I jumped over to our parent account that we use here at Black Truck that monitors all of our accounts, and I went into the Search Console inbox there, and I found that we had like all of them. There's at least the first whole entire page, which is 25 rows, has your site has been switched over to mobile first indexing.
So it's really the mass deployment, if you will, happened.
Yeah.
What, in the last 48 hours, probably?
Started on Tuesday.
So it's really rolled out
right.
hard.
And we've seen that this is coming. You know, we've talked about that countless times, and I just wanted to quick go through a rundown of what this means and what Google says is going to happen on this. So I did some research on it, and I found Search Engine Land had an article touching on this. It was out by Barry Schwartz yesterday, and then it did a summary of an article that Google put out back in June, talking about the upcoming, I guess through a Twitter chat. The Google Webmasters Twitter feed had answered some questions back in June about what to expect.
I think we had touched on it in a previous episode, probably back in the episo's 40s, somewhere in there, and then I do believe we wrote a blog post about it too.
Right. So it's nothing really is going to change. There's nothing that we have to go out and do. However, we still have to be diligent in making sure that everything is running
for the majority of sites.
For the majority of sites, yeah. So if you have an old clunky site that doesn't have any kind of mobile friendliness or responsiveness, that's the word.
Or heaven forbid you're running on an M dot or mobile version subdomain.
So what's interesting here, so you're not ineligible. If you have a non-mobile friendly site and a non-responsive site, you're not going to be excluded. In fact, the first few sites that actually got rolled over to this were sites that were desktop only. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Secondly, what I thought was kind of neat is if you have a mobile URL, but a desktop or a standard URL for desktop, it's going to show you the correct one. If you're on mobile, you'll get the mobile URL. If you're on desktop, you'll get the desktop URL. However, mobile content is what's going to be shown everywhere. So even if you're still getting the desktop URL, you're going to get mobile content for those sites that have both mobile and desktop.
If you have a
sites.
full responsive site, that doesn't apply, right?
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting how it can still break it down. The speed update that happened back in July, that I remember we discussed that about how that might have an impact on your mobile first indexing. Apparently, it's completely separate. They have nothing to do with each other.
So speed update separate from
Correct.
mobile first index in general.
We're saying speed update in quotes. It's actually called the speed update. It's a separate entity, but doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have to pay attention to speed, as we've always talked about that. And here, speed is a ranking factor and can help with how your site shows up. Hamburger and accordion style menus are fine. There's no harm to those. They're not the most attractive thing, especially on a desktop. That's personal opinion, but I hate a hamburger menu on a desktop site.
I'm with you, and if you're a designer or developer that keeps doing that, you're not helping anybody. In fact, in my opinion, if I'm to be so bold to say, that's lazy design work.
Agreed.
You can't. You're lazy in the fact that you can't develop two different types of browser interaction. I think that's just poor. You can't assume everybody knows what to do with that.
So the search bots, the crawlers, they can read your hamburger menu, especially on mobile or accordion. It's just because you can't see it doesn't mean the crawlers can't see it. And that's pretty much it. There wasn't a lot that we've been talking about it for years now.
Yeah.
And we know it's coming.
It feels like we've been talking about it for years.
Yeah. It's something that we definitely have to do. And I know that we have plenty of clients that haven't even thought about mobile. Still we're the search professionals, and this is what we do. And by the time a client does get to us the first time, they maybe are just starting to do the research on what mobile friendly means. And
most of them don't. Half of them, I would say, they probably don't realize that they're there already. Like, well, your site's responsive because you rebuilt it, in the past 5 years.
Right.
So you're fine. Maybe it needs to be secure. Yeah. Or maybe you need to look at the way that things are rendering in the mobile environment and things like that, and maybe just further the positive user experience.
Seems like a lot of sites that work in an industrial industry, those are the sites that haven't been updated in the last 5 years or so.
Or a really, really large enterprise. Some of the large, there's even some large big box retailers, I'm not going to name names, that there's still some instances that they have almost like a mobile version of the site. You don't get the full experience. They operated for a long time. For those in the DIY world of do-it-yourself home projects will know who this brand is, where you have a desktop version and experience, you have a tablet version and experience, and you have a mobile version and experience, and they're all three completely separate things. Because even when this first rolled out, and you read between the lines and say, okay, if it's a responsive site, you don't really have to do anything immediately. Like there's no major red flags, or there shouldn't be. And even for a lot of people, it's easy to sit there and say, well, what the hell do I need to do? Like I'm good. It's those major players, those sites that comprise a huge amount of traffic in terms of the world of search or just Google searches in general. They have very, very large footprints. Those are the sites that, 2 years ago, you hope they started down this whole process of being ready for the mobile first index. But nonetheless, they probably aren't. Yeah, that's great. Good reminder. Keep an eye out for it. Any tips on that other than watch Search Console? You're going to get that notification.
Yeah. You'll probably see some blips in your rankings as things. If this is now the official switch over for your site, you might see some things tweak a little bit.
Some things moving around.
Keep an eye. Maybe put an annotation for a benchmark in your analytics, so you can see and keep track and make some comparisons in there.
Well, interesting. So you said Tuesday. Was it Tuesday when we started to see things shift out?
Yep.
So funny. What was the date of that? 9/19. Yeah, so anybody who follows Moz's Mozcast, so Moz.com, Mozcast. So all last week things were pretty chill in the Mozcast, down in the 70-degree mark. Here, I'm going to put my weatherman voice on. And then all of a sudden, on the 17th, we start to see things start to creep up. 86 degrees. We get to the 18th, 101 degrees, and then boom, on the 19th, it pegs 105. So things totally were very much moving around on that day. So the high was Wednesday, actually, September 19th. So if they made the push on Tuesday, everything hit on Wednesday. So kudos to Dr. Pete and everything he's done with the Mozcast. So cool. Good stuff, Pat.
Well, and on that note, speaking of September 19th, this is on Search Engine Roundtable. I saw a headline that said, Google search algorithm shifts around September 19th, ? So, yeah. I mean, there is a mention of, mostly around the new batch of mobile first indexing changes.
There you go. We get the new batch. So,
the new batch quote was the rest of the internet.
Yeah, this is a rollout that we're going to do over the course of a year, guys.
Yeah.
So shift some gears here. Non-news related, industry related, I would say. Something that Ashley and I we had some really great meetings this week, and this topic has come up multiple times of when a site is being organized or reorganized. So when you're going through the taxonomy of a site, your products, your services, your solutions, call it whatever you will, how do you go about determining where everything's going to live and what you're calling it? And really, I think what it came down to for us in our internal discussions here, these are things that these are concepts that seem very basic and very elementary. They're also the hardest questions to answer and to develop a strategy around. So hopefully in our discussion around this, we're going to try and make it pretty clear on a direction that you should think about going when it comes down to reorganizing a site. How do you make it the best UX or user experience? And what it boiled down to for us, and Ashley, you can totally correct me if I'm wrong, was asking yourself the question, is my content structured, so navigationally, and content, meaning contextually on the page, is it structured in a format that my existing customers, my customers right now, know how to find? They know how to go through there logically to say, these are the products that we use, these are the services that we use, this is the language that we speak. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Again, it seems super basic, but...
And even structure in terms of how the on-page content is arranged. If it's logical and is going to be giving visitors that information that they're most likely to be looking for when they visit your site.
Yeah, and this is something that has come up, again, countless times, almost to the point where I can understand now where, Taylor Swift's had so many boyfriends that she just produces an album after every one of them. Like, I think we could do that based on client interactions, but that's not necessarily fair either. But I think that if you think about it, do you understand, and especially the case of Google Quality Rater and EAT, and so for those of you who don't know what it is, Ashley, EAT stands for?
Expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
Right. Within your content, right? And there is so much thin content out there on sites right now, and we continue to disappoint users. So as you're looking to make those changes, you're pruning content off of a site, you're reorganizing, you're restructuring. What do we need to look at for the content that should be included on those pages? Is it quantity, or is it the way in which I need it? What was the word that came up just recently in discussion about the format that it's coming in? Is this a liquid? Is this a solid? Is it frozen? Is it fresh? Is that how your audience talks, or do they talk strictly in quantity?
as far as categorizing the products or services
Yeah. Being just have a real strong intent and be very logical about how they are actually communicating that,
Yeah, and the conversation too makes me think about, this is kind of steering in a different direction, but we can bring it back.
Good.
But so not only should inform how you arrange your website, but that all of that information that helps you make those decisions, that's going to play into your keyword research as well. Learning how to talk like your customers talk or your potential customers talk, so that you can speak their language on your website, not only with how you categorize things and the headings and format on your site, but using that language is also going to help with search traffic. So
you realize that we often say there's a difference between what you as a brand or marketing person think that someone is searching for versus what they actually are. And what they actually are searching for, we can get some insights certainly with keyword research tools. But at the same time, there's nothing more powerful than sitting down with your customers and saying, asking them what their challenges are, or why they order what they order, or how or why they buy what they buy, and walk through that process with them. Do you think that process has to be? I think that process seems very daunting for a lot of people. If generating content wasn't bad enough, how would you say is there a good approach to be able to go through that process? Like, do you think it has to be like super scientific-y and structured, or like what's your thought on that? Anybody?
I think it would start with a bullet list of key points, key areas, and what lives underneath those key areas. We might simplify it and just use the phrase sitemap, or just more of a roadmap. But I think it starts with characterizing where the important parts of your site are, and then building down from that. And once you have that, figuring out how you're going to navigate to it all, and if it all makes sense. I think about some of the companies that we've worked with here, and where the sites, or if it was an instance where we weren't fixing an existing site, we were helping them rebuild a brand new site, which had a whole new user interface and design and format. And one of my big sticking points has always been, don't confuse people with where you're navigating to. Like, this page and this section and this page and this section are too similar, and the user doesn't know which one the function of it is. You can have overriding themes throughout the whole site, and some pages can have themes that are similar. However, the function of the page needs to be clearly defined and clearly readable by the user. And I think starting with clearly defined user points is a great place to start.
And those clearly defined user points can also be great kind of jump off points for your keyword research too. And that needs to be included in that keyword research process to help you decide what those. We might name that category page initially, red shoes, when in all actuality, we know that based off of search volume and customer feedback, it's women's red shoes or red women's shoes or something like that. It's more descriptive,
right?
Which we know has, as SEOs, we know has a lot more power to it in the search world. And to your point, Pat, connects the dots a lot faster to you as the user when you land there and you go, oh, I know exactly where I need to go. I think that's the big thing. In terms of that actual on-page content, though, structuring it, I think a lot of times people get hung up on, I'd love to do that, but I can't, especially if you're in a reorg, I'd love to do that, but I can't do it in my existing design, which brought up for us a conversation today that Ashley and I had was, we've had the privilege of being involved in a lot of different website rebuilds, and what you find out is that everybody's always waiting on content. The content is never developed first. So in a perfect world, what really needs to happen, and if you want to save yourself a lot of headache, what you do is you go through the process that Pat described, and that was, I'm going to rebuild this sitemap the way that it needs to be based off of a logical user flow or what my customer needs, and that's how my products and services live. But then I develop the content that needs to live on those pages. I cover all of the points, I answer all of the questions, and then that content is handed off to the UX UI team to make it pretty. So the design development stage, rough design has already been approved at that point, but before it goes into development, they need to have that team needs to have that content so they know what they're working with. So they know the size and scope of that. You can't come at someone with 10 pounds and try and cram it in a 5-pound bag.
Right.
Yeah. So if you don't do it that way, if you design the site first and then try to plug the content in, you're either going to have some poorly arranged content, or you're going to have to lop off some useful information for the sake of making it fit and making it work with your site. So in the long run, it's not going to do much for you.
And especially if you're trying to work in things like any level of demand generation, lead generation, or something like that. You're trying to think about, okay, I have all this content and it's supporting, maybe it's keystone content. It's not over the top salesy, but hey, right over here on the right is a call to action. That type of information is good to know up front. So you're trying to map it. It's almost like just throw everything up on a whiteboard and then start moving the pieces around and see what's going to be there. But really the question is, are you thinking about your user, your customer, and how they work and how they function? If you are a player in the automotive world, let's say, think about it. If you're selling cars and you're a user, you're coming to a dealership website or a manufacturer website. Logic says I come there and I go, well, I'm looking for a car or an SUV or a truck or a van or a crossover or something like that. I mean, if you go to any major manufacturer's website now, that's how they're ordered. Majority of your car dealership sites are that way too, because that's how the user understands. That's their mind. They already know once they've gotten to your dealership what they're looking for. So if you work with existing customer base and what their likes and dislikes are, I think you can format that much more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then before you launch your new organization, if you can do some user testing and
Totally.
see how that works and make any changes that you might need to make it the best it can be.
Yeah, so so usertesting.com is a great resource for that. I mean, very low cost. You could get in the door and do that. You could do some heat mapping, but I don't think heat mapping is really going to show you much in this case other than scroll depth or where somebody's focusing the majority of their attention. In the case of user testing, what you bring up, you're asking basically I want some real feedback.
Yeah.
So would you suggest that's like an A/B test of a page, like an existing page maybe?
Perhaps,
And you walk people through that, or a development site or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just being able to ask people, we've talked about this a little bit in the past for just how... for testing for various sites, just being able to ask people, I think we talked about it more in terms of a search journey, but in this case it would be more just on-page interaction, okay, what are, give them a task and see how easily they can complete it with the way that the site is laid out, or tell them, look for this, try to find this product on the site and see if they follow the path that you expect them to take. And that might give you some insights for changes or creating some alternative paths if you need to.
So basically, I think both of you, Pat and Ashley, have both touched on the fact of you're trying to provide the path of least resistance through all of this. How can I make this the best and easiest experience for you, the user? And then how can I accompany that experience with really great content that you connect with? So that you're ordering this by a case or you're ordering it by the truckload. are we using that language?
Yeah, and you're not trying to write content that's going to go viral. You're just trying to provide all the information that is needed. It's,
Great point. Yeah.
Too many people overthink it when it comes to the content. It's like, no, just write what you do. How many times have we sat in meetings and we've talked to them about content and like, well, I don't know what to write. It's like, okay, let's talk a little bit about what it is that you guys do. And then I'll just say, okay, write that down.
Right.
What is at least the bare minimum that people should know about you or about X product or about X service?
And if you could take that information and then work alongside, say, an SEO, then I think you really have a much more powerful outcome, right? Or approach to developing that content, developing that structure, because I think one of the best things that happens for us is when we do get involved early in those projects to say, okay, we're going to reorg this site. We're going to freshen it up. We know we need to move things around. But instead of them doing it, they ask us to do it. And we do it based off of search insights. But if you can take the search insights and combine it with what their customers tell them, I think that's even more important. So it goes back to that. We've talked on it before. It's something that we very much believe in here, and that's the user-centric SEO model, framework, mindset, if you will. That's really our thinking, is that it's not about the robot necessarily, it's the person behind the keyboard. That's the one that's making that search. They're the ones that are looking to place the order on your site. They're the ones that are looking to hire you.
The robot is trying to think like a human.
Right. Always has been.
Right. You're getting better.
Right. And SEOs 10 years ago just ruined things for everybody. But I mean, we're beyond that. It's water
so
under
did
the bridge.
So did that Bing advertising campaign.
Yeah.
If you remember that when Bing first rolled out, when they tried to do the Google robotic voice repeating random things that had nothing to do with. Yeah, that one still sticks with me. I wasn't even in the search industry then.
Awesome. So really what it comes down to is this seems like a very basic concept, but it's not when you start to break it down. When you start to get down to brass tacks and look at a page and go, oh, that doesn't really speak to our current customer. It shouldn't live in this category. The taxonomy's all wrong. No, you're right. That doesn't make sense, especially when you're dealing with sites that are large. There's a lot of legacy information there, or there's multiple people involved, multiple departments and things like that. What ends up happening is yes, there's politics and stuff, but if you set politics aside, sometimes there's just this new product that's brought on and you're like, hell, I don't know where to put it. Just shove it in that category. Is that really the right thing to do? No, it's not.
Not helpful.
Or a splash page gets made that's not in any sort of navigation, and there's no way to navigate to it. You have to have the link.
That's right. Doorway pages. It ranks well, doesn't it? These aren't changes though either. I think that we maybe want to point out. These aren't changes that we would expect anybody to jump directly into, and kind of knock out. In a weekend, meaning you're not gonna just these aren't changes you're making every week and every month. These are very methodical, thought out changes that need to happen to a website.
And set a schedule for yourself. Create not just a roadmap or a time frame. Say okay, in the month of October my goal is to bang out 4 pages of content.
Yeah.
Obviously depends on the site and the load of everything you have going on. But don't look at it as I have this entire site I have to do. Break it down and do it into segments. Be smart about it.
Yeah.
Set realistic expectations for yourself.
For sure. Oh, that's good. Awesome. Cool. So I guess in to wrap this up, Search Console, keep an eye on your messages coming through. Your site's probably in the mobile first index now, hopefully. Which means that's a super, super official thing, I guess. And then when it comes down to, the reorganization of a website, especially larger ones, really take the time to think that through and really take the time to map that out, and don't just group it by a product category, because that's what you call it, and that's how you think it should be. If you can pull some customers in and key stakeholders, get everybody in the room and talk about that, and talk about how they order products and buy from you or buy services from you and engage in other companies, let that shape the direction of your structure, and it's just a much better outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a lot longer. It's
Yes.
a much better outcome.
Yeah, the end result will be far worth
Yeah.
it.
Yep, totally. So you do all that legwork and hard work up front, and then you hand that full map over and say, "This is the direction we're going. Here's all of our content. Let's make it function and look good." So I make it sound really easy. Like I mean, I'm not discounting a developer's job. Super hard job. But it's why we don't do it. So, all right, cool. Thank you guys for sharing. And make sure you guys listen to, if you haven't, if this is your first episode, please go back, listen to some other episodes of the Redirect Podcast. And until next time, good luck.
This has been the Redirect Podcast. Check out the show notes at blacktruckmedia.com and add us on iTunes and Stitcher.